Great. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for making it to the session first. We have Deepak coming in as well, so that's good. So I'm hopeful that more people will be able to join. Sorry for the technical glitch again. Sorry for the inconvenience. Those who are joining for the first time, my name is Ajay Pinjani. I've been working with the Global Schools Forum for the past 3.5 years. With me is Kiara. Kiara has also been GSF for 1 year now and almost and growing. So, Kiara, maybe you want to introduce yourself and then we'll kick it off.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm an innovation manager at GSF, really passionate about nature, about sustainability, about climate. I think education has a huge role to play here. And as well, climate is threatening education. So the links are really obvious to us, but not always obvious to everyone. So that's why really happy to join Ajay in holding and growing this community of practice and figuring out how GSF, what role GSF can play in this space to support you and to advocate for the change that is needed to better prepare schools for the disruptions and also help schools forge a more sustainable future for for everywhere where we live in the world.
Thank you, Kiara. Thank you so much. So, yes, this is our second session of the Community of Practice. We had a wonderful one last 3 weeks back, and it was really nice to even think about the goals overall, introduce the goals of the Community of Practice as well. But just wanted to briefly put in, I wouldn't go through the details of the GSF because you're already introduced to it, but we are really passionate about supporting non-state education organizations across low middle income countries. We have now grown as a community to 183 members across 70 plus countries. So it's really fascinating the kind of work you all are doing. And with that, when we started with the climate community of practice, the whole thought process was that climate is requiring us to be more resilient as well, but also demanding us to be more thriving as well, adopting different curriculums and frameworks and practices which we can learn from. So at the very beginning, right now, we saw a lot of value in spotlighting work where we can learn from each other. And this is what this second session is about. And yeah, really excited to start with a bit of a check-in with a small group so we can maybe check in over here as well. And then after that, from the check-in, we'll happy to introduce Nouman from Climate Class Connection, and then Wemi from Coastal and Marine Areas Development Initiative. You may have already watched a minute video from them and their context, but it'll be really wonderful to hear about it. For those who are unable to join because of technical or other reasons, we are recording this session, so we'll share it with them as well. And because of the last session, we had a lot of leadership gaps which had been highlighted and a lot of urgent themes which had been highlighted from the community, from the assessment survey, the need assessment survey we had done when we were exploring this community of practice. So, as what we've always done in a community of practice, it's not a one-way monologue conversation. It'll always be a dialogue, a kind of conversation where we learn from each other, but also we guide where the COP takes us. So while we make a formula, we create sessions, but what is important is those are timestamps, and what we want to do with it is how we can try to, forge a partnership together. So maybe something before that, yes, really appreciate your presence and encourage undivided attention. As always, this has really helped in. So a kind of a check-in question which I had, we wanted to, maybe it'll be good to hear it over the group overall. If you can think of a moment recent or from your past when you felt a personal connection to nature, think and go back to that moment for a while. And what did you see, hear, or feel? It does not have to be education related. So don't force yourself into that situation, but wherever you felt connected to nature.
Oh, I'm happy to start. I love this question, Ajay, and then I can just pass it to someone else. I think when I feel connection to nature, when I'm swimming in any open water, whether it's a river or a lake or an ocean. So I'm thinking about the last time I was swimming. I live in Cambridge in the UK. There is a river that winds through Cambridge. And not many people are that brave to swim in it because it's not so clear whether it's clean enough really for swimming. We've got a lot of ecological issues. So some people are saying not really safe, but I'm desperate. So I was like, I really need to go. And I did some research, and it was last autumn when I went swimming there. And I just felt at peace. I think that's the best description for how I feel when I'm in the water. I feel at peace and I feel like part of a bigger whole. That it's not really just about me. I'm part of a bigger story here. And that river was here for thousands of years before me, and it's going to be, after I'm long gone. So I'm part of a long, long story here. Yeah. And I felt very cool because it was pretty cold river. And I'll pass
Wow.
to Alessandro.
Cool, thanks, Kiara. Yeah, great question. I'm part Slovenian, which is a small alpine nation. So I went back there for Christmas, and we went on a quick sort of walk in one of the national parks there. And I love just being around the mountains a lot of the time because it kind of forces you to reckon with kind of the impact of nature and how I would say intimidating, but how respectful you need to be of the mountains. And I think because I grew up in London and I still live in London, there's not many opportunities a lot of the time to engage with nature like that. And I just remember feeling really open, quite free, and also that the air that I was breathing in wasn't completely polluted for once, even though it's getting better in London and stuff. But yeah, so I would say that was my last interaction with nature in that sense. And I'll pass to Wayinmi. I hope I'm pronouncing that right.
Thank you, Alexandra. My connection with nature, really lovely question. So I'm recently working with a farm, a small farm in North Yorkshire where I am. And yes, the last 3 days I've spent it outdoors in the rain and being on very muddy soil and working with sheep and just seeing how spring is coming. So it reminds me of back home, but now I think I've brought home to me. Home is Nigeria. So I felt really at peace. I felt, oh, I'm part of this wider whole, big environment and I'm playing my role. Everyone's playing their role. So I just felt at peace and so excited to see the trees coming out with the little flowers. So yeah, and I'll pass it on to Team Nepal. I don't know whoever is starting, but yeah, Team Nepal.
So that's why I changed the name very quickly because it will be very weird to Lenovo, Team Lenovo. Eh? So we are from Nepal, and Nepal is very beautiful, and we are blessed with beautiful natures and lots of national parks and everything. So my first interaction with nature was when I was 7, and I went to Chitwan National Park for the first time, and so all the animals, elephants, rhino, and deers in their natural habitat. I feel very connected since that time, and I'd like to share.
Thank you. Back 2 months ago, I visited Karnali province, one of the beautiful provinces of Nepal, among other six. So there, I got a chance to travel a lot and then visit the hilly areas and the settlements over there with lots of gardens, and even there was the rhododendron forest was there. So that was a hub for maximum tourists to be there during that season. So that made me feel very wonderful and get connected to nature, as well as that was so pleasing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Who else would like to go? Nouman?
Yeah, Ajay, sure. Am I audible clearly?
Yes, Nouman, we can hear you.
Thank you. So, the story I would like to share is it's about today. I just visited the Gujar Khan to attend our first initiative, Eco Bazaar, Eco Market in a girls' schools. So instead of green fields and clear airs in the area, I saw countless bricking across the roads. The smoke was so heavy that even it made breathing uncomfortable. In that moment, I didn't think just about myself. I thought about the parents, the students, and all the people living there, growing up in a polluted air every day. For me, the one day was so difficult, and just think about them. They are living there so many years and would be living in future also. So I realized how deeply environmental damage affects everyone health, learning, and the future. And I think that journey made climate change feel immediate, local for me, and very personal for me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nouman, for sharing that. Wahab?
Hello.
Hi, Wahab.
Hi. Please, can I get the question again so that I
Sure,
can?
Wahab. Wahab, in the past or in the recent past, at any point in time where you felt connected with nature, what was that? How did you feel?
It's just recently in the northern part of Ghana. Yeah, weather here is very hot, and we have a lot of challenges regarding this in our schools because looking at it, most rural areas they had to reach communities. The schools are not having lights, no fans inside. So once the weather becomes hot, from 7 a.m. to somewhere 9 is a bit okay, but from 10 to 11, then up to 1 to 2 p.m., you can't sit in the class again. The weather is very hot and we are coping with it. So, but for our last session and maybe this session, especially the last session, I'll be able to get ideas on how climate change affects our education. And then through this community of practice, I know in the end I'll be able to also get a way out how to uh, manage students or schools in terms of how the weather changes and others. So this is really something that I've, I'm happy to join with. Though I was a teacher before, but and I was working with Plan International Ghana, but my contract ended in December, and I'm currently a volunteer with the African Dyslexia Organization. So I do visit schools to advocate for dyslexia, and through that, I've been able to see these weather changes in the classrooms, and which I've talked about. And through my advocacy, I'll be able to also uh, see how best teachers can manage students when it comes to the weather, so that in the long run, we'll be able to know how to support our teachers in the school. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you so much, Wahab, for sharing about your context as well from Ghana, but also from the dyslexia organization. We've been very, very privileged to hear more about the story as well. And I think that's what fascinates us each time, the amount of diversity in terms of context, but also the complexity of learning differences with early years, with later years, and how that connects with another bigger, element of climate, which is consistent and through and throughout. We will dive into that. You'll hear more from Nouman and Vemi as well. But I wanted to hear from Brian, Habib, Deepak. Um, would you want to share your story of nature, connecting with nature? Brian, are you there? Great. Maybe they can share it over the chat or Brian, I can see you've unmuted yourself, so please go ahead.
Oh, hello everyone. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Oh, yeah, maybe maybe you can continue because I just joined.
No worries, no worries. Please feel free to drop it in your chat, in your context as well. It'll always, and virtually, it becomes a bit tiring and challenging to know exactly who's joining from where. So help us in that process, write it on the chat so that we really understand your context. I recall connecting with nature there many times, but I think one is in Tharparkar region from Pakistan as well. And I think it can be extremely hot in that desert region. But what I recall was that as while it was scorching hot around 40-45 degrees, there was a moment where I had this milk yogurt kind of a thing in my hand, and I was under a tree and there was a whole desert. But I think just in that moment when you're under that tree, the kind of air which moved at that moment was so blissful that this contrast became really helpful. And I think many a times in cities that contrast goes away, but that contrast really makes me realize the blessing of being in that particular moment. And and it's not about that pain and pleasure, one is good or bad, but it's just about seeing the wholeness of it. And I think that's what nature really brings back to me each time in a very different form. So thank you. I would like to take us ahead into our presentation mode. And we are very happy to have Nouman as well as followed by Wemi. But let me share a bit about Nouman before he jumps in. So Nouman, in the next 5 to 10 minutes, will share a lot about climate class connection, advances how he has led and started this organization in Pakistan, especially from his context, which has been politically conflicted as well. So today you will hear one context which is politically isolating in different ways, with climate being the constant challenge. And then Wemi, when she shares about Nigeria and the Niger Delta, will be a completely different landscape. So when you hear these two stories, I would love you to reflect on your context and how Nouman and Wemi has been leading different kinds of initiatives. But today we've tasked them to not talk about all the initiatives, but talk about one initiative in particular, which they feel very proud of in this particular year, and they would like to share with all of us. So handing it over to you, Nouman, for now. Let me know, Nouman, if you want me to share the screen or you are comfortable sharing the presentation by yourself.
Yeah, Ajay, I would request you to share my presentation because I'm already facing the internet issue here.
Happy to. Just give me a minute and I'll do that. Is it visible, Nouman?
Perfect.
Perfect.
Let me just. Hi everyone. As introduced by Ajay, my name is Nouman Alam, and I'm from Pakistan. The district I belong to is already mentioned here in this presentation, how it is vulnerable to climate change and climate-induced disaster. So today, our presentation and the organization that I'm working as a founder and CEO in Climate Plus Connection is basically about the gender, climate change, equity, and how we are responding to all those issues and problems in Pakistan, specifically in the most vulnerable districts and most marginalized communities in Pakistan. So today, I want to share something very simple that climate change is not only an environmental problem in Pakistan, specifically and seriously, it is an education problem, and it is the gender problem. And for me, it is also a very personal because in this slide, I will be sharing my own village stories. You can see here from the GIS map on the left side, the Pakistan, and the arrow sign is showing my village, which is in the yellow circle. So In this, you can see that the blue colors lines are basically the dry torrents. Most of the years they are empty, but whenever heavy rains come, they turn into strong rivers. When I and my sister were in grade 5 and I was in grade 6, back in 2006 and 2005, everything was normal. There was no issue with the weather, there was no issue with the school closing. So but slowly, rainfall became heavier and more frequent as we can also see the, data from the research that the frequency of climate-induced disaster, the frequency of, and the intensity of all those disasters, whether it is a flood, whether it is a landslide, whether it is a heat waves, etc., has been increased. So the torrent started flooding again and again, and many days we could not reach schools. For boys, sometimes we still tried, but for the girls, it was not considered safe according to the culture at that time and the religious strictness. So the school was were once damaged by a storm, where I and my sister was reading and studying. School kept closing for so many months. My sister stopped going, and one of them just got married at 19. Not because she was weak, but because the system failed her. So that experience changed my perspective and my life. So coming to the slide number 3, yeah. So in this slide consists of a lot of information from 2022 and 2025 floods that were the extreme floods in Pakistan history. I'm not gonna and I will not make it complicated for you. So I will just focus on 3 things. Number one is that millions of children's education has been disrupted by the flood and heat waves after the COVID-19. When schools were closed, girls are the first to drop out, and the percentage of the girls was also more than the boys. The second is the girls are the most affected, and the third one, which is very important, that our school are not prepared. Even when I was a teacher back in 2021 as a Teach for Pakistan fellow, most of the teachers and students were even not aware of the basic science of climate change, the things that has already disrupted their own situation and their own financial condition. So we only prepare students for exam, but not for the climate disaster. And this is the gap that we are trying to solve. So in the next slide is our response. And this is very important. Last year, we just applied for the GSF All Hands on Deck 1,000 grant support, and fortunately, we were lucky to receive this grant. And this was not only a grant for us; it has just give us the very important energy at a very important time to scale our climate class connection training programs and community programs across Pakistan. So because of this gap, we started Climate Class Connection with the support from Global Schools Forum. We reach over 2,000 students. We have already written a very clear article about this published on the GSF and Climate Class Connection LinkedIn page as well. We will share with you all. We also train more than 100 teachers, including the mothers. But for us, numbers are not just the biggest achievement. I think the biggest achievement is the leadership. So coming to the next slide, where with the help of GSF, it was a small grant for us, but again, we were very committed and we were a very motivated team of Climate Class Connection. So we just initiated Teachers Parliament, and this was the first Teachers Parliament initiative in the history of Pakistan, where we created something. It brings together the government teachers, the private school teachers in district Swat, which is the most vulnerable district in Pakistan to flood. We bring on the table education officers, area education officers, district education officers, and then the community members, all the community leaders. They sit together like policymakers. They discuss real climate problems in their own districts and around their schools, and they design local solutions. And all the local solutions was approved by the district education officers, and the district education officers commit that we will be helping the teachers and the school head to implement all those projects in our school before coming any future floods in that district. And it was not workshop or a simple parliament. It was a leadership platform for those female teachers. Next, please. Yeah, so this is a very short response from the female teachers, government female teachers, because she was leading that teacher parliament in the district Sawar, and she said that in Sawar, one female teacher joined our parliament. She had never led a public session before that. She told us that she always felt shy to speak in front of others. During the parliament, she led a full session. Even she prepared the concept note of the session, that who will be coming, how they will be responding, how they will be engaging with each other. She spoke confidently. She guided discussion. After that, she went back to her own school, started her first climate projects with her students. Today, she mentors other teachers in her school. When we created space, women lead. And I think when women lead, change becomes sustainable. Same story is coming on the next slides, which is a very, very important initiative, Climate Betak. The Betak is a Urdu word, so in English we can say gathering, like gathering for the climate. And this was not something uh, old. It was a unique feature and unique program that we started with the GSF support. And it was that um, out of the school boundaries, female teachers and female students gathered the community members, specifically in the patriarchal societies of Mera Bagwal village, which is a rural village in Islamabad. They just gathered the both the authoritative males in their own village, because there was an issue of deforestation around the school. The school is located in a very beautiful mountainous area. So this time, the girls were leading. For the first time in that village, senior male elders sat and listened to young girls. The girls spoke about tree cutting, air pollution, and health problems. The elder were impressed. They donated plants, they donated money to those students, and they agreed to hold monthly meetings. And it's been, I think, our third climate gathering in that same village. They promised to support the tree protection. They have also donated more than 100 tree plantation to the school area. So those girls are now seen as the leaders in their community. This is not just about the climate education in the textbook. This is breaking basically the barriers. How to be involved, the girls and female teachers to take leadership in the climate education in future. So coming to the last slides that we have shown is very simple. It's not a very big thing, but we consider it a big because it is very close to our heart. And even with a very small support from GSF can create a big change when you trust local teachers and local students. So we are not asking for short-term projects. We want to build long-term system where schools are prepared. Our teachers, those teachers who are already bearing the brunt of climate-induced disasters, are confident, and our young girls are leaders. So I want to leave you with two questions: that how does our story connect to your work, and how we can work together to scale this model in the world. So when we invest in climate education, we protect children's future. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Nouman, for sharing this. I think, yeah, I just want to pause. I have thoughts and questions, but want to see if others have thoughts, questions, or even words of appreciation or encouragement or otherwise to share.
Yeah, and we will also be sharing the updates from today's events because it is again a very unique idea and new initiative. Believe me, when I went to the school today and I met with the area education officer, she was also there. So she said, Numa, this is the first time I'm seeing the children making products and they are selling in school. You know, they have Ajay know the Pakistani because they have sell a very small things, products, eco-friendly products more than $25,000 today on the first day of the Eco Bazaar. So, and this was the area education officers told us that please start in our own in other schools in Punjab district to scale this Eco Bazaar to other schools. So these are some of the small initiatives that we are trying to build, and we will be sharing our email and our LinkedIn link as well more about the Eco Bazaar. So you can ask any type of questions in regarding the projects, regarding the GSF support, etc.
I'm also very surprised, Numan, that because being raised in Pakistan, I haven't seen eco bazaars as a
Yeah,
concept.
yeah,
Also, we've seen
yeah.
indigenous bazaar or artisan bazaar at max, but never an eco bazaar. Can you share more of why did you even think about an eco bazaar, and why did you think about going to several colleges rather than using the same money for one school? How was that decision making process?
Yeah, thank you so much for asking this question. And today there was students from Fauji Foundation School. I didn't know about Foundation School. They are like a beacon house schools, and they said that we have never seen such things in our private school, in our well-developed schools, that you are implementing in a less resource public elementary schools in Gujar Khan. So about the Eco Bazaar, the idea was basically in my mind last year in January 2025, when we just started the implementation of the EFL Environment for Living projects given to us by the Ministry of Education and Professional Training in Pakistan, where we have trained 2,600 both male and female teachers on how to teach climate education on a project base in their classroom. So there we design, we give a task to the teachers that can you design how eco bazaar like we see Raja Bazaar, as you know about Raja Bazaar, Sadar Bazaar, etc. How you can imagine eco bazaar where everything will be environment friendly, nothing, not one product will be environment hazards. So they just the ideas came from the teacher, and I was surprised that these teachers know so much about how a bazaar should be eco-friendly, but they do not take their own initiative. They do not start from their own self. How I can contribute to the normal bazaar to be eco-friendly. So the idea came back in 2025, and um, I would say that today we just implemented this idea in the schools. The Eco Bazaar was joined by four schools from Gujar Khan, and the next Eco Bazaar will be joined by 15 schools in Gujar Khan because we have been given the commitment by the area education officer. She said that just give us a concept note that how it will be implemented in all those schools at the same point, the same in one location. So this was the idea. We submitted to the GSF grant, but at that time we didn't implemented it, and we started teacher parliament and climate better because I thought that this is most important in those villages to start the climate BETEC and teacher parliament. So this is something about Eco Bazaar, and I will also be sharing more detail in a written form with you as well as
Thank you so much, Numan. I'll be happy to share that ahead. I can already think of who you can collaborate with. I know Earth Warriors builds a lot of curriculums for how to teach in classrooms. If you're not familiar, they can certainly be somebody we can connect you with and, think about exploring curriculums as well. But
yeah.
I'm very keen to know if for anyone else, this context is relatable. We can pause here for a few minutes to see if there are any questions or thoughts even for your own context, which are coming up. Yes, baby.
I just wanted to say thank you, Noman. It's very relatable, although it's in a very different context. What I want to say is thank you for honoring or giving the women a chance. I think I heard you say one of the women not being able to do public speaking. For us, sometimes women's voices, they are visible, but they don't have that opportunity to speak or host a session. So giving them that chance to do that, I think it's a very big highlight, I should say. So kudos to the work that you are doing. So really, really brilliant. I just wanted to know, do you have any challenges, maybe not really from the women, but maybe from other people who are saying, why is a woman doing this? Do you have any of these challenges or resistance?
Yeah, thank you so much for asking this question, Doctor. And yes, we do have challenges like initially shared by Ajay that the district I'm from is not only disturbed by the climate change, the most serious issue there is the what I would use the word is that this insurgency. Like there are people that are not happy with the girls' involvement in such initiative. So what we do, we do not directly highlight the girls from those schools in those districts because we know that they are already vulnerable, they are not safe. So in those districts, because I want to start my initiative in my own district in the girls' schools. I already working with boys' schools, but for in the girls' school, it is a little bit challenging because the own culture, the religious mindset of the people do not allow me to start in the girls' school. But one day you will see that we will also do work peacefully in those districts as well. So this is the challenge that we are facing currently.
Thank you, Wemi, for even raising this concern because I think
Mm.
many a times we think that we're talking about one intervention which is being piloted and scaled. There's no such thing. In education and the kind of work we do, there is no such thing of one pilot and scalable. The whole complexity of the societal, economic, political, bazaar in itself is can be very, very challenging. But we can bring out those innovations and connect those threads and pieces. Alessandro?
Yeah, thanks, Nouman, for that. That was really, really interesting. And I guess building on Ajay's point there about the complexities of society coming through in these types of education initiatives and stuff, I was wondering if you could maybe expand a bit more on the teacher parliaments and how they actually work. You mentioned that district officials, that there is some buy-in and everything, but yeah, how are they structured? And do you find that a lot of the issues discussed, there's a lot of agreement, or are there some issues that people are further away, like further apart on, and how do you manage to synthesize those?
Yeah, thank you so much, Alexander, for asking this question. So, in Pakistan, whenever you want with public schools, I mean government school, you need to get the NOC from the education department. So I had a friend, fortunately, when I was in Teach for Pakistan, and he is currently a school leader there in Sawar district. So I just reached out to him that I want to start teacher parliament because there are so many happening in Pakistan, the political parliament, etc. But we want to start climate education parliament specifically in the education sector. And this was very, he said, teacher parliament. I think government will not allow you to start this because it's a very political thing. I said, no, no, we are not doing any political discussion in those teacher parliament. We just want to bring our proposals to the education department that if possible, can you please support us in those projects we want to do in this school? Because there's a term used teacher agency, the capacity of teachers to take their own decisions. And this there is a very big lack of teacher agency here in our school. So in the teacher parliament, we just reach out with the help of my colleague to education department, area education officer, and DDO in Sawar districts. And he had already a good relationship with that DDTO. So fortunately, we just got the NOC, and after the NOC, we made a clear and detailed concept note that who will be the part of this initiatives. And believe me, Alexander, there was fruitful discussion. Like they were just bringing the political ideas as well, and nothing was tell or there was nothing that could be against to the education department people. They very politely supported the ideas, and they said that yes, in next year after teacher parliament we will be discussing how the project was implemented in your schools, and how the ideas that we generated today, next year we will see the impact and their implementation phase. And fortunately, we have also, as a climate founder, um, told them that we will be supporting you if you bring a very proactive and very positive project ideas. And fortunately, we just got funding for that as well from another organizations to support those projects. And education department was very happy that now we have some money also as well for the teacher parliament ideas. So in this case, it became possible for us to initiate, bring ideas from private schools, from public schools, and with the help of education department, in the presence of education department. So these were something about the teacher parliament. And it is also, as I shared with Ajay, the LinkedIn post, it is also mentioned about the teacher parliament in that post as well.
Thank you, Nouman. Wahab has a raise of hands. I know another person, maybe Vemi from your organization, had a raise of hands, but she dropped out. So maybe you can represent her later. So yeah, Wahab.
Okay, thank you very much. I want to ask from Norma whether this teachers' parliament it has link with the community, because when it comes to school governance, communities are supposed to involve in it so that we can get a proper way of handling. So my question is that are the communities part of the teachers parliament that will at least speed up your projects in terms of what is happening in the school? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for asking this question, Wahab. There is a term we use, CPP. When I was in as a fellow teacher for Pakistan Community Partnership Project, and from that CPP projects back in 2021, when I just implemented, I got to learn that if you want to get some impact from your project, you must have to involve the community people. So here in Pakistan, we have a system SMC, school management committees. I think Ajay know about that. So each and every school, specifically the public school, has already school management committee, and the people in the school management committee are the parents of the students. That means they are the leaders in the community. So in our teacher parliament, our first invitation was sent to the SMC management committee from all those schools that were the part of our initiative. And there were, I think, 4 to 5 people from the SMC school management committee, which is basically were the community members. So in the presence of community members, because it was a unique in that way that on a one platform we have private school teachers, we had a education department authoritative, we had a public school teachers, we had a community members. And that is why this was a unique for the education department, and they were really impressed with this. And that way they said that next year we will also will be initiating this gathering as a future parliament too in Sawar district. So yes, community member was also part of our future parliament as well. And not only the teacher parliament, I would share the pictures of the climate better, because it was not held in the school, it was held in a village, the hujra. I don't know what the word we can use for the hujra in English. Ajay would know that.
Mm. Yeah, I don't know what Hujra would mean. Is a villagers committee, the elders committee kind of a thing.
Yeah,
Committee.
yeah, it's like that. So in that climate better led by the female teachers and young girls, there was I would say 50-60% people from the community. There were not no one any from the authority, etc. They were from the community. So the schools and communities held the climate better.
Thank you so much, Nouman. Thank you, Wahab, and thank you everyone for all the questions you've asked. I think there would be many more questions, I'm sure. We'll move to Wemi, but before that, I just want to share, Nouman, if you can share, how do you set up an eco bazaar? Not right now, but in your documents, if you can share, we can create a repository of sorts. If somebody is thinking in another context of Nepal or Uganda or another context to think about a teacher's parliament, what are the 5 things they need to think about? What are the kind of
Sure.
relationship building or community efforts they need to be very conscious of? And that could be some abstract learnings, but also there could be some pragmatic aspects. So we can build that repository with all of you, right? And then share. So everything, I'm looking for an opportunity here and there.
Yeah,
With
I would be
that,
more than happy. Yeah, I will share.
wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. With that, I would like to pass it on to Dr. Wemi. Wemi, thank you very much for volunteering to lead as well. It's really exciting to go into a completely different context now. Go into the continent of Africa, enter into Nigeria, within Nigeria, enter into the Delta region of Niger. And when Wemi and I spoke, she spoke about how mangroves have always been there, but the oil has also surfaced. And with the oil surfacing, the economic prosperity, which we call development, GDP, and everything, is taking away the mangroves as well. I'm sure she'll speak about, and then interveners like Wemi and the team comes in to talk about how do we really regrow what we already had, and what does it mean to include the individuals like students through those green classrooms. So really, really excited to pass it on to you. Wemi, if you can let me know, do you want me to share the slide deck for you, or are you comfortable sharing yourself?
You can share it for me. Thank you so much.
Let me do that in a minute. Perfect.
Okay, thank you everyone. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here to present. So my name is Waymi. I'm calling in from the north of England, but I'm originally from Nigeria, and I come from a part of Nigeria called the Niger Delta. And the Niger Delta is a very beautiful region. It's known for it's the fourth largest area in the world with a lot of mangroves and tropical rainforest. It's one of those beautiful places, but most of the time, if you Google, it tells you only the bad side. But today, I'll try to tell you the beautiful side of the mangroves. So, my organization is Coastal and Marine Areas Development Initiative, and I'll tell you what we're doing back at home. Next slide, please. Um, like I said, the mangrove houses more than 30 million people. They depend solely, majority of them, they depend on farming and fishing. So their livelihoods are based on what the mangroves can give to them. We used to have life before the oil production, before we started producing oil. We are the largest producing oil producing region for our country. However, we also have a decline of mangroves and our ecosystem. So we have our mangroves vanishing due to oil spills, rapid deforestation, rapid urbanization, and as we have environmental pollution and degradation, we are also seeing the changes that are happening with climate change. So where we have the air pollution, the water pollution, we are also seeing a lot of rising sea tides, which is leading to flooding and more coastal erosion. And in the middle of all of these things that are happening, there is a gap in education. So a lot of people are thinking, oh, it's just normal to have flooding. It's just the rains that's happening. Or we're just losing the trees because we want to build our houses. So it's normal to have the trees cut down, or it's normal to build our houses on the creeks of the mangroves. It's what we know. We're also seeing a lot of people saying, oh, it's normal not to have the fishes, but you also have the people saying we need to educate and we need to tell the communities something is happening. We are not also losing the trees, we are also losing losing knowledge. We are also losing life, classrooms, and all of that. So what we started in the next slide, please, is how do we change the narrative? How do we start something different, very different from the usual news we see, which is very grimy. It makes you very sad, with lack of water, air pollution, rising health challenges, students not understanding maybe why they are missing classes or why the rains are so heavy that their classrooms are leaking and all of that. So my father started conserving the mangroves way before the world started talking about mangroves. So he decided, oh, do you know what? Let's conserve this whole place. So we have 25 hectares of land that we decided we wouldn't touch, we wouldn't tamper with, we would leave it in its natural state, and we would make it a classroom. So a living classroom for ecotourism and education and research. So what we did over the last 20 years is make it a home for people. And when we started, there was a lot of oil spills in the creeks, the animals, the monkeys, the birds, and all the fishes, the seafoods, or what you can think about that made it an ecosystem. They were not there. So over the years, we've tried to integrate environmental literacy, climate resilience, and teaching people about other eco-friendly livelihoods that they can have. So what we've done is people have seen the park, it's called Fakop Mangrove Park, and they're like, oh, we can come in and come and relax. But when they come in, we then take them on a 2 hours guide, whereby we start telling them about the rainforest and the mangrove forest. And we have like a 301 mangrove trail. We have a Hall of Fame, a Royal Museum. And then we start telling them about this is why the mangroves are here. This is why you have the rainforest. So in 20 years, in different ways, we've had what we call the Sustainable Development Goals clubs, both in primary, secondary, and higher education. So what they to schools do, they call us and say, hey, we are coming to your park. So we prepare for them. And over the years, we're working with institutions to show students, um, oh, this is what you can make out of the environment. So you can have a biodigester, you can have honey, you can, rear bees, you can have a farm, which is farm to table. You can also make medicines from your plants. So indigenous knowledge is coming. We get to have guides that are local, so they know the ecosystem better than those who are just going to school. And we've had more than 200 pack-based learning. Over the years as well, people then get interested in saying, oh, I want to know more about green careers. How do I start rearing bees? How do I become a beekeeper? How do I have like gas that I don't need to buy so I can make my own gas? So how do I navigate this whole SDGs and my career? So thinking, oh, you can be you can think about water sanitation and hygiene, so you can actually provide biosand filters. So we teach people how to set up water biosand filters, ceramic clay filters. So trying to see you can produce things from water essence, baskets, and all of that. So arts and craft. And we've mentored a lot of young people and we still mentor them. Students have gone on to have restoration projects, maybe not particularly in the Niger Delta, but they start thinking about ideas. Oh, I can work on plastic pollution. I can work on waste management in my community, or I can start also training people on some sorts of waste to wealth. We've had, Norman was talking about bazaar. So we've had a waste to wealth in community for young girls where we ask them for a period of time, could you pick out the waste in your community and turn it into something? Girls have picked up scraps of woods and turning it into some kind of building things. They've turned old materials into pads, and just different things that their own ideas could be. And then they had like a display of it. Teachers have come to say, oh, whatever you're doing, keep doing that and keep helping us. So next slide, please. in doing all of that, we've realized that we've established some sort of pillars whereby we cannot exclude the indigenous people. So that's where we bring in the community. So over the years, most of our guides in the park and even within communities are those who understand the botanical names of, they know them in the indigenous language, they know what they do with it. So we have institutions send their students for placements or projects where they come and identify plants, and the indigenous people are the ones who help them to identify those plants and say, we don't know the botanical name, but we know what it's used for in our culture. We know what they use for medicines, and also that's where research meets indigenous knowledge and then local stewardship. So these people then know, oh, you can turn these into teas. And over the years, we've tried to turn mangrove barks into teas. We sell mangrove teas. We've turned some plants into teas where say it helps you for hypertension. So kind of telling people your plants are very important. This is how you can turn them into a livelihood. So like eco-friendly livelihoods. Whilst the environment is degrading from oil spills, there are other things that you can make out of what's left of your ecosystem. And then we cannot talk about education and not emphasize on the mangroves. So that's why we have the mangrove park. We also talk about waste innovation. The biodigester is one of the famous ones where the student get excited, like, oh, you're using cow dung, chicken poop, human waste to make gas, because we tend to buy gas individually. So some people also still rely on kerosene or firewood. So we are trying to promote affordable energy, telling people that you can have this, but you need to have stewardship of this to promote it in your community. And also student campaigns, so a lot of advocacy, encouraging youths who might not understand, or they might not understand the ways to advocate for better rights. Niger Delta is known more for its conflict because we are producing a lot of the oil, but we are very deprived, so we don't have good roads, we don't have good schools, we do not have health access to healthcare. So there's a lot of agitation and youth unrestiveness. So rather than channeling that in a wrong way, we try to explain to them, you can channel it in a good way, so you can talk about your environment and advocate better for your environment. So engaging with government officials, even local government chairmen, and also do it in a way that is not aggressive, but you're fighting for your rights. So that's the three pillars we have for our live classroom. We are having young or smaller organizations who now come as a base for us, where they come and use our live classroom as their center. So they're kind of inspired by what we do, and they say, oh, we want to use your base to learn more and encourage more young advocates. Next slide, please. For us, this is just an example. I don't know if Anino is on here. So Anino is one of she's a program manager who's also part of the SDGs. So our SDGs doesn't only talk about climate action, we also talk holistically. So you can't talk about SDGs and say, oh, I'm only focusing on climate action, education. You also have to connect it to the environment. You also have to talk about the way of life. Do they have clean water? If you notice in the picture, some people are standing. That's because there are no chairs and you can see the ceiling. So if there is rain, the classroom would leak. And in some cases, some people might miss classes, or it can be very challenging for them. There's also food insecurity because, again, a lot of them, their parents cannot afford maybe oil company jobs. So they are very reliant on farming or petty trading. And since they cannot afford, education beyond this, some students might be absent and they struggle. When it floods or when it rains, it might be difficult for many of them to come to school and all of that. So our SDG clubs are not just about climate, but they're thinking about what's the way forward. And the students have done well to understand how the environment connects with their health, connects with their education, connects with everyday life in community. So when we hear SDGs, it's all about the SDGs: clean water, zero poverty, affordable energy. And what we try to do is educate them to understand it and become stewards. So how can they change their environment, or how can they make it better? Next slide, please. Um, we've over the years, what we've done with the girls, we had a girls project, and they started a farm inside the park. So in our park, the rainforest meets the mangrove forest, which is quite unique for us. So on the rainforest side, we started a farm, and we produced a lot of vegetables. So the girls sold those vegetables. And then, oh, who has the most pressing needs? You need books, you need your school fees. So that was some of the things we were doing to buy school essentials. We've trained youths, both boys and girls, in different kinds of eco craft, thinking about how to use water hyacinths. Water hyacinths are a huge disturbance to our waterways, so we convert them into baskets and all sorts. And again, the mangroves are great water filters, but the oil production spills are too high. So we try to think of how do you plant more mangroves, as well as how do you restore or clean the area from the spills that you have. So one story we have is, previously the creeks used to be having, the boys used to use the canoe with the spills. They would sabotage the pipeline as part of youth unrestiveness. So we had a lot of spills. So over the years, because we told them, don't come, you spoil the ecosystem, the mangroves have helped to purify the water, so it's cleaner. And recently we started seeing different kinds of fishes that were coming, and we're able to experiment on caged fish farming in the mangrove water itself, rather than farm itself, farmed fishes like catfish. And we keep training people on conservation and entrepreneurship. So basically our focus is on youth and women, because they are the backbone of society. So if you don't equip the women, because they are the pioneers of, petty trades, they want to grow, and then the youths to reduce that unrestiveness that is in them, and tell them, oh, there's life beyond the oil jobs, there's life beyond, just waiting for someone to give you a job and all. So that's what we've been doing. And next slide, please. We hope to continue the work we're doing, keeping our mangroves as a living lab, ensuring we keep on with not just awareness, but agency. So giving them the tools, that's where the entrepreneurship comes in, and also trying to build local knowledge, making more don't dismiss local knowledge, but saying it's part of your curriculum, it's part of learning, and also connecting coastal schools to other people. So don't say it's just only me in my world, but there are people in different parts of the world that are having issues that you could learn from and collaborate with. And yeah, that brings me to the last slide, I think. Where we're just asking for more people to have like exchange, so students know that it's not only them that these things are happening to, but they can learn from others. We still need support with curriculum partners, people who can help us. And mangrove is not something much talked about, but it's something that is very important, because the mangrove helps to save a lot of carbon, and seed funding for more work to support youth in education and policy. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Vivi. I think what stood out for me, while so many other things, the element of narrative. And I know you didn't speak much about it, but I think that was constantly in the background when you started, or you may have heard bad things about Niger, and later on, that's something which the BBC News and other news channels are voicing it out. And what gets hidden is the core work around why Niger should be known for, the beauty, the what it's bestowed in terms of its wealth, and how that is vanishing away, and kind of projects which are being built by us. And it's so inspiring to learn about your father started by just having a piece of land, conserving it before it became a crisis later on. Thank you so much for sharing the complexity and overall just the different dilemmas and what the students are able to do.
Thank you.
We
Thank
have
you, AJ.
time for reflections, questions, thoughts. Yes, Alessandro.
Yeah, thanks for that, Oritseweyinmi. That was really, really inspiring and super interesting. And I particularly really liked how you marry indigenous knowledge with then not just focusing then on the scientific or the botanical and everything like that, but really trying to preserve those indigenous knowledges, which a lot of the time center environment in a lot more of a profound way. Obviously I've heard about the Delta a lot through the news and everything, but I was wondering what's the relationship been like with local government, and what's the sort of appetite for your program at the moment? Are you finding a lot of support, or is there a lot of contention, I guess, because of obviously the main economic practices in the region, versus then that having a quite devastating impact on conservation? Maybe just about the relationship with local government and how you see that continuing.
Yeah, thank you, Alexandra. That's a very beautiful question. So, we've spent lots of years advocating and trying to raise our voices to say, hey, we are here, this is what we're doing with the local government. So it's a very interesting, complex situation. So what the local government would only come to endorse. So it's kind of a power dynamics. They would only come to endorse and say, hey, this is what's happening in my region. This is what they are doing. But when it comes to funding, they will tell you they don't have funding. So what we tend to do is tend to advocate that this is working. So we have to do a show and tell. So, hey, this is working and this is what you should think about in your budget. This is what you should consider when you're making your policies. I think it's just in the last 20 years, it's just recently we had the state government visit us. So we've been writing to the state government to be like, this could be a place for more students to come and to learn. So it's just only I think early this year they paid us a visit. So we're hoping that we've kind of gotten their attention and not just referring people to us, but also saying, oh, we could fund or we could give you seed funding or we could collaborate with you. There's something called local content. So the local content is like a local government initiative where they seek out for people who have content that would empower young people. Well, it's mainly be focused on one-offs projects like making sure students get to have like tailoring skills, barbing skills, and then there's no follow-up, there's no continuity after like maybe a year. The whole project dies down and then they come back. So we are pushing for them to consider this is long-term blue economy, green economy, whatever economy, but this would be long-term for them and we could take them on a journey. So we're hoping that maybe as time goes on, they would consider that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that story. For me, what really came out strongly is that point of we've been disconnected from nature. On what it really stood out for me. You said our lived experience of people that you're meeting, that you're working with, has been disconnected from a lot of the reasons for why and there are these challenges and these problems that they're facing. And the importance of like inspiration, of showing an alternative, that it doesn't have to be like this. You don't have to put up with ever more polluted air, ever more polluted water, even ever decreasing amount of fish and other resources to maintain your livelihoods. That I think for me, a lot of your work, what I'm hearing is like painting a more inspirational vision of what the future could look like, that is a lot more positive, that is a lot more on many of these SDGs, not just on education, not just on water, but all of these are so connected. Livelihoods, to health, to education, to gender equalities, all of these ripple effects, the positive ripple effects that we can have, if we could even imagine what a more what a future with nature could look like. And I wanted to ask you, I think you've given examples of how to start reconnecting people between their lived experience and nature, both in terms of helping them imagine what different careers might look like in this space, eco-entrepreneurship, but also in conservation, etc. You started talking as well about some solutions that could also, like the being able to produce gas from waste product, this kind of circular economy, as opposed to just relying on more polluting options, which to me talks about self-sufficiency, taking back control actually of your own life, of your community, not being dependent on external stakeholders to produce food, to produce energy, etc. So I just wanted to follow on and kind of get more of your thoughts on what have you found the most empowering kind of levers, mechanisms for reconnecting people between their lived experience and climate, and particularly if you can, I'm really curious about education. As of course we're kind of focusing on the context of education. You talked about classroom disruption, the floods, there's more rain, the classrooms being flooded, people just kind of thinking, oh, well, it has to be like this is the new reality. Have you been able to maybe work with some schools to help them see alternative solutions that would empower the school to be more independent, to be more resilient because of some of these projects and connections, and maybe new innovations or maybe some indigenous knowledge? So yeah, a lot of questions in there. I'll pause here and just let you come in on any of these.
Thank you, Kiara. A really lovely question. So yeah, w- I think no matter what we do, education is the solid foundation of it. So all the frameworks is education, education, and we don't just talk about it just in the live classroom. So we try to take it even into the community day to day. So in the markets, we go to the markets, we have that conversation about, this is what's happening, this is your reality. So kind of painting that picture, this is what your market could look like if you separate your waste. This is what your market. So a lot of how would I say it, very flexible or adaptable kind of education, even when we are at the health center, because we have very limited health centers in a particular cluster where we are. So we tend to again adapt it to, okay, there's malnutrition. How does that relate to you coming to the health center? How does that affect vaccine? How does that affect? So the framework we have is always kind of like adapting to the various people that we meet every day. So when it comes to water, there's also that conversation. You have to change it. Say, this is why. So if we're giving water filters, for example, it's not just, hey, take water filter to prevent typhoid and cholera, but we try to say, this is how much you're going to save. This is what you're going to do. So for us, education is the real, like, that's the only way we can buy community ownership. That's the only way we can show them that there's community ownership. And one of the other things is they can be very reluctant because there's a gap between their lived experiences and what they see as normal. So we have to show them this is a future. This is what it can look like. So back to that circular economy, like so it's a lot of mindset reorientation. You have to change their mindset to see that, oh, if I conserve my mangroves, this is what's going to happen. This is how much fishes I can now get. This is how much of these. So if I have my own biodigester, this is what will happen. So it's very centered on buying. So, and also we cannot, how do I say it? We cannot do anything without the community. We cannot do anything. So we have to ensure whatever frameworks or whatever we do, it has to be centered in buying their getting their buy-in. So we tend to say, hey, do you want to try this out? Do you want to do all of this? So rather than doing it ourselves like we are saviors, we tend to say, this is what you can do. So leading on to one of your questions, how do we help the schools and all of that? So because we have very limited funding, so that's why we entered the schools to do the SDGs. For some higher institutions, there's a particular institution, not even in the Niger Delta, but a little bit in the western part of Nigeria. They've decided that they were going to make a replica of our classroom, but they don't have mangroves because they've cut down all their mangroves. So what they're doing now is they're now planting trees and trying to see how they can, do a replica of what we've done. But they also have limited funding. But that's also helped them because they now have a mini zoo. They now have a park, like a green space, and they are like, oh, this is the benefit. People are now coming, so they are also generating revenue from that. For the schools, we still keep talking about them, but one of the things we've thought about is how do you incorporate a school feeding program? How do you get them to have gardening? So the students are eager. They are very like, let's get hands-on. Teachers are eager to join in, but then we're like, we don't have the funding. So what we keep doing is we keep bringing them we give them access to our park, like our live classroom, and we say, you can farm here, you can be a part of this. And of course, we would always share the produce. We would always, because of course, we can't eat all of them. So now we are in cashew season and the cashew is just falling down. So anyone who comes to the park has the opportunity to take a lot of the cashews, but they don't see themselves as people who can make cashew jams. They don't see themselves. So we keep saying, you can turn this into something. So I think whilst we have the students who are very eager to do a lot, they want to plant trees, they want to have those campaigns. We, on the other hand, we are looking for funding. So yeah, I don't know if that has answered your question.
Wow. No, thank you. Thank you. That's why we've added funding as our pillar as well, but it in itself, how many funds are available. And I think that's where we see the value of partnerships as well, and the kind of collaborative approaches which you've even asked for at the end of your slide. What we'll try to do is, of course, we're left with 3 minutes. I'll share a bit about what we're doing next and take your feedback. But the kind of ask, Wemi, you've made, Nouman has made, I can already see some kind of collaboration which can take place. And I think that's something which we can give fuel to, and maybe we can learn more about, or from Peace, from Aswan Nepal, from others. I think there's just so much more to even learn in the context wise. Other organizations have also reached out to me and Kiara to say that they would like to share about their work. So maybe we can, invest in those future sessions and then think about. What I'll do is I'll walk you through when are we meeting next, and we'll put it out in the email, what your documents are and all those details. But in the meanwhile, if you can also, share your feedback to the poll, that has always been very helpful. The first poll you had shared led to this particular. Earlier, we were doing a very different session, but the kind of feedback we received, we felt like let's get grounded in knowing the work which is being done across context. So please do fill in the feedback as well. That's really helpful. In the meanwhile, I'll share the slide and share when are we meeting next. Kiara, is the...
Yeah, we can see it.
Perfect. And the poll is also open, right?
Yes.
Great. So we've met first on 22nd Jan. This was our first lightning spotlights, and in a way a strand introduction as well. I'll talk about the strand introduction in the next slide. And then in the 5th March also, I think it's worthy for us to hear from more organizations. So if Alessandro, you're willing to share something, others are willing to share, please reach out to me. What would you like to share? And then we can curate those sessions accordingly as well. Later on, we want to go into active strand alignments and maybe even understand the global landscape of COP30 and education, and go into advocacy and funding as well. But we don't want to rush through it. So as long as you're part of this journey, and we know it's not going anywhere, it's a long journey. So we want to hold your hands and walk with you slowly and gradually, rather than rush into something and close it down. So that's the intention. I'll send out a registration invite again for 5th March in the email, which will come as the takeaway email from this, what we learned. Nouman, Wemi, please share me whatever documents you would like to share with the community, we can even send those out. And also your ask has been recorded, so we'll share that ask as well. These were the different themes which were prioritized. I know we don't have the time to get in, but we trust the energy, and that's why we do not want to go deeper into it. I'll put down in the email, and maybe when you're thinking about presenting your own spotlight, maybe you can focus on one of the gaps which you had come up with in the last session, or one of the themes which all of us had come up with in the assessment survey. So I'll spend time on that over that in the email, and maybe share more observations there. But these are the kind of gaps which we as a community have come out so far. There are many. We cannot focus on all at every time, but I can see that some kind of building your climate action plan has come out today. Adapting, the curriculum integration may not have come fully, but community engagement may have come, and green livelihoods has come. So I think some things are coming up, and Chiara and I will try to consolidate those and add your names into it around as well. There are other opportunities as well. What I'll do in the takeaway email, something we are thinking is, maybe there are many other engagements which are happening beyond the community of practice as well. So our intention is not to have a core closed group, but introduce those as well. So today I received an email from Schools 2030. They are doing these two events. So I'll add the details in the email as well. But this is also an invitation for you to share. If you're hearing some education climate event which we should be part of, please write to us so that we can share it. Because on the email, we have 60 people or so. People who are managing to join, sometimes because of the time constraints, other technical difficulties, would be lesser, but our community is much bigger. So we want to be conscious of that. And so if you have any events which will come up, please do share with us as well. I'll share these two and share more as well. But thank you so much for joining. And thank you very much, Nouman and Vemi, for being the first ones to start these spotlights and help us orient ourselves. But thank you everyone else for joining as well. It's really, really lovely to spend the time with you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Ajay. Thank you, everyone.